Hi Fox, how you doing? So today in the second round of the Gashimov Memorial, once again as expected, the game between the two top stars of this tournament, Carlsen and Nakamura, was the most interesting game, the longest one in fact, and really an interesting one to analyze, just to try to understand how this absolute genius Magnus Carlsen from Norway plays. Let us see what happened. Carlsen was white, and Nakamura from the United States is black. Carlsen plays d4 once again, and we reach, as yesterday, the Slav defense. Knight f3, knight f6, e3, bishop f5. The main move is here bishop f5 or bishop g4. But well, black takes advantage of the fact that the bishop isn't still on d3. The light squares are available, so he put the bishop there. Knight c3, and here both a6 and e6 are very theoretical. Nakamura goes for a6, and well, Carlsen plays bishop e2, a rather modest move. Svidler and Jan Gustafsson were commenting today in the live stream, and well, agreed that queen b3 is an interesting move here. Very cool line, which could lead to a nice mess. After b5, takes, a4, b4, etc. But okay, this isn't in the style of Magnus, I think. He just prefers to develop pieces very quietly, doesn't need any advantage out of the opening. He just wants a playable position. He just plays bishop e2, h6, and well, as funny as it could seem at the first spot, now Carlsen plays, after having played bishop e2 on the previous moves, he moves the same piece twice. He plays bishop d3. Well, not recommended to do this at home when you're learning to play chess, as you shouldn't play the same piece more than once in the opening. But certainly, as it seems really counterintuitive, but as Svidler was commenting, this is considered to be the best reaction against h6 in this concrete position, as White's plan is, as Svidler said, as I repeat, White's plan normally is to play e4 and attack on the king side, so h6 makes that task easier, and well, exchanging those bishops would, it seemed, would help White in this position after h6 is played. So well, he said in the Russian Team Championship, there were some GMs commenting on this topic, that after h6, bishop d3 is absolutely a serious attempt to look for an opening advantage. So well, I'm more or less puzzled about this. This kind of counterintuitive move may be a serious attempt to win some serious edge in the opening, but okay, that's how the top level chess. It's very subtle and very little differences between one position and another. Anyway, it's very normal to take here on d3, and now after e6, Nakamura has a very typical semi-Slav position, an absolutely rock solid one, and very likely to get out of the opening without any real problem. Now some moves here: castle, bishop b4, bishop d2, castles, rook to d1. Nakamura decides to exchange the bishop for the knight. Bishop takes, knight bd7, now b3, very solid, protecting the pawn on c4, not letting black say take on c4, queen takes, and then try typical c5 e5 breaks right away. And really, after queen e7, very solid game so far for both players. As usual, you can see Carlsen postponing the real fight far away from the opening to the middle game or even into the end game. He doesn't want any theoretical deep discussions. Now he plays rook ac1, just normal moves. Rook ac8, queen e2. Very interestingly, I'm gonna keep repeating their good comments. Jan Gustafsson and Svidler wisely pointed out there is really nothing special going on here, but it is easier to do nothing as White here than as Black, because White has more space, a little bit more space on the center. So of course this is roughly equal position, but White has a little more space in the center, so he can be roughing just moving pieces around more easily than black can. Okay, knight e4 now is quite normal. The knight is going to strong outpost on e4, defended by the pawn. The bishop gets out to b2, rook f to d8, and now knight e1. Clearly white would like to play f3, chase that knight away, and maybe think about playing e4. So Nakamura anticipates that idea. He plays knight d6. Well, c5 was an interesting attempt here, suggested by the engineers, closing the queen side down, and well, maybe trying to play later bishop knight to d3, f3, e4, but it was really far from easy. Engineers liked this move, but certainly bishop a3 pinning the knight against the queen seems more normal, more human. Now f5 is played, securing the e4 square for black. So after this, knight would go probably to f6, and the queen will be free to move whatever. Knight d3, you always have to look for good squares for your pieces. Now this knight could go to c5, to e5, to f4. As expected, the knight goes to f6. Now the queen will not be pinned after it moves. Bishop goes to b4, and after queen c7, Carlsen plays queen f3. Well, not easy to explain all of Magnus's games, Magnus's moves, because in my opinion, I just don't see what's the point of this queen f3 move is. But okay, it's just to keep putting pressure on the position. Maybe it has something to do with the c file, with taking on d5, with this diagonal maybe. But I don't really understand that much this queen f3 move. Nakamura takes on c4 first, so b takes c4, and he plays knight f7. e5 is the move he would like to play someday. Now very interesting a4 move, and if white gets the pawn to a5, the queen side will be locked forever, precisely where black has a pawn majority, so that would give white free hands to play in the center or even the king side. So black avoids that by playing a5 himself, a committing decision, but probably a necessary one. Now bishop goes back to e1, b6, queen g3, and the queens are traded. Queen takes, h takes. Rook a8. Well, probably black will play b5 sooner or later, so the the a file is very likely to be open, so this looks a reasonable move. And now f3, stopping this knight, for instance, from going to these two interesting squares, e4 and g4. And well, at this point it's interesting. I really think this could be considered really the maximum expression of Carlsen's style. He doesn't really seem to be doing anything special, anything spectacular or flashy. Apparently really nothing great, but he's pushing his opponent move by move. He just is pushing them against the ropes, slowly letting them without really much squares, forcing them to create weaknesses, and just really keeps playing and forces them to think, to keep moving. And well, he will sooner or later, he hopes sooner or later they will make a little tiny mistakes, and he's absolutely sure his technique, his positional understanding of the game of chess, it will allow him to take advantage of the little tiny mistakes that the opponent could make. So well, now rook b8, rook c2, and finally black tries b5 break to seek for activity, for some space for his rooks, for his pieces in general, also for his knights. Well, some options here. If, for instance, if a takes, c takes, c takes, and rook takes, now black's position looks healthier. Now he has a nice passed pawn on the a file. But okay, Carlsen did take. He played the interesting knight c5 move. It is attacking the pawn on e6. The computer says it was maybe possible to sacrifice that pawn and instead create this strong, more or less strong protected passed pawn on b4. Carlsen could take on e6 with the knight, but well, the point is that black pieces are more or less stacked on their part of the board, on this side of the board, so white's strong pawns on the center are really stopping black pieces from active play, and well, it is difficult to make any progress here. Although white is up a pawn, black is has a compensation in, I think, in this protected passed pawn, but well, still a complicated position here. Really, everything is very thick, very difficult to move, very difficult to make serious plans here. Well, after knight c5, Nakamura didn't go for b4, he took on c4. Now rook takes and knight d5, so the knight is finally situated in a good outpost, attacking e3. Right now, for instance, bishop d2 just defending, and e5. Black seems to have reached some activity in the center, liberating his pieces. Now, for instance, well, it was possible maybe to take on e5. Black, of course, would take with the knight, attacking the rook. Rook c to c1. I don't know, maybe knight b4. This was another possibility. Black seems to be a little bit, seems to have a little bit more free position here. It's not that restrained. But well, Carlsen didn't take it. He plays instead e4, attacking the knight. After f takes, he takes with the knight. If f takes e4, now, for instance, white's pawn structures, apart from tactical things which are happening in the center, of course, white's kingside pawn are very bad. And after knight f6, attacking the pawn on e4, d takes, knight takes. Black is very active now when white's edge is mostly gone, probably because, well, still has a weakness on c6, probably one on a5, but his knights, for instance, are now much more active than a couple of moves before. So taking the knight makes more sense probably here. Now knight b6 attacks the rook. Rook takes c6. At this point, well, critical point maybe. Jin says that taking on a4 was probably better first, but well, here d takes d5 could be played. Knight takes, attacking the rook, and rook c7. This rook is certainly strong on the 7th rank, and well, after knight b2, you can be sure Magnus was not going to go do this, but there was a funny way, an interesting way to force the draw here. White bishop takes h6, and after g takes h6, there's a typical pattern here. The typical way to draw with the rook on the 7th rank with the knight. Knight f6 check, king f8 check on h7, king g8, knight f6, etc. So okay, this was another possibility. Well, instead Nakamura went for the move knight d8, attacking the rook, and it seems, well, the engine says this is a worse move than taking on a4, but still the position in both cases I think is really messy, complicated, and well, not easy to make correct plans here. I think just to take a look at the trip that white is going to take to preserve his the couple of pawns he's going to win, and it seems it's enough for him to keep some stable advantage. After this rook g6, knight c4, attacking the bishop, getting active with the rook. White just with the knight, sorry, white just takes on e5, and well, king a7, the rook must go to g4. There are some discard attacks on the knight on c4, so the knight takes, of course, on e5 with tempo, attacking the rook on g4. Rook h4, knight df7. Well, white is up a pawn, and well, but instead he has moved lots of times this rook, and right now on h4, maybe this isn't the most active piece in the world, but well, certainly white is as from the beginning of the game really on the driving seat, and he's the only one basically playing for the victory here, unless of course white blunders, which is not something expected when the world champion is playing. Bishop c3, improving pieces. Now the rook goes to b3. Black is not fearing an exchange of knights on e5. Rook goes to d5. Now you must defend e5 with rook e8, for instance. Now rook f4, rook e7, keeping everything well protected. And well, the bishop takes on e5. Finally, white gets his second pawn. So this is a very difficult situation for black. And once again, I must say it once again. This is a very typical Carlsen style. You just slowly, we're already on the 42nd move, slowly but steadily improve your position until black loses some material, and now somehow with his positional magic, Magnus Carlsen will be able to stabilize his position and to just solidify his advantage, his material advantage in this case. Knight g6 attacks the rook goes to f5, and now knight e5. Well, black knights are reasonably active, they're doing something, but the whole point is that overall his pieces are lacking that many coordination to attack, for instance, white king. So well, if any time soon, if a couple of pieces are exchanged, this will probably help white more and more to stabilize his advantage. He has a pass pawn on the a file. This is the clue. The a pawn is clue in this game. Well, now the rook goes to d1. After thinking for a while, Magnus secures the first rank, which could be a source of problems for white king and source of counterplay for black for Nakamura. Now knight c4, rook c1, and Nakamura exchanged on a5. Rook takes, and now rook a3. Well, that's one good thing that black achieves. He has this rook behind the enemy's passed pawn. That's a classical Tarrasch rule in the endgame, but probably isn't helping black that much so that he can achieve a drawing position. Rook c to c5 and rook a2. Well, now I would think probably about something like rook a8, but that's why I'm not a strong player at all. Here black would have some source of counterplay, very interesting. Check on a1, and after king h2, a nice exchange of pieces in this way, knight e5, and after knight a5, knight g4 check. So if f takes g4, look at the white pawns on the king side. They're really very funny and absolutely not good at all. And of course black takes on e4, so this funny and horrible pawn structure on the king side, 3 pawns in the row on the g file, and white vulnerable king is giving black, I guess, some practical chances to draw here. Still, white once again, of course, is much better, but this is really there are some practical chances here for black. In fact, he is threatening to go with the rook to e1, and there will be some serious checkmating threats here. But okay, this is of course much better for black than the line Magnus is going him to allow. He just goes king h2. After this rook a2, he just goes king h2, preventing problems. Now rook d7. Black really needs to create activity against white king. Must look for something. Rook a6, knight e7, and g4. This creates some room for the white king on g3. Rook b7 and rook b5. Exchanging here, well, would certainly help white a lot. Now the rook, of course, on a6 is protected. It's going to advance to the sixth rank already if it is not exchanged, which is not something very likely to be happen. And well, this would be of course much better for white. Instead of exchanging this rook, Nakamura goes to c7, and now knight c5, rook c6. Now he exchanged the rooks, but in a different situation, activating his knight, bringing it nearer to the white king. c6, rook b7, knight d4. Well, the king moves forward, but here already it is very difficult for black to create some serious counter chances. And after some very precise moves here, g5, king g3, and after this king g4, Magnus is absolutely stabilizing his position and will soon force Nakamura's resignation. After h takes g5, he takes, and after knight g1, of course, black is threatening to take on g2, but very simple and very strong move, rook g4. and Hikaru just resigned after 61 moves. Carlsen will protect all the a4 and g2 pawns in this case with his rook, and well, black will really not have any serious threat in this position. For instance, if king f7, king f5, and somehow this king will finally succeed to go to the king side, while the rook is defending everything on g2 and a4, and well, the king will help the a5 pawn, the a5 passed pawn to be very, very serious threat. So there it goes, another long and very demoralizing game, I guess, for Hikaru. And I don't know, this I mean, certainly Magnus Carlsen is creating a new era in chess. He's playing really very steadily, very slowly. He just doesn't move. He doesn't make bad moves, and he forces his opponent, as he just says, to make 40, 50 good moves as he does. And it seems right now nobody else in the world is seeming to be able to match him. And so there it goes. After 2 rounds of the Gashimov Memorial, he has 2 out of 2. And an astonishing live rating records, I think about 28, 90 something, or he's just very, very soon, very near to be reaching the 2900 barrier. Absolutely crazy. Thanks for watching.